Hello, everyone. This is the Nameless One, and tonight we will be doing the Alicorn discusses conventions topic. Before we get started, I would like to remind everybody, if you enjoy this, would like to see more of it, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, ring the notification bell, all that good stuff. Be sure to leave us comments, questions. If you're in the live chat, then feel free to ask any questions, and we will get to them if we can at the end of the podcast. Other than that, more on how you can support the podcast and everything else I do at the end. Let's go ahead and get started with introductions. Let's see. First off, we're gonna make Peruser go first. Peruser, tell us who you are, what you do, and what your first convention was.
Oh, okay. I'm Peruser of Pieces. I'm a brony plush maker. Been making plushies for over 10 years now. My first convention ever was Canterlot Gardens in 2012. My first convention vending was BronyCon 2014.
Okay. Scarlett, your turn.
Sorry, you just got me numbing on a cookie. So I'm Scarlet Fury. I'm a YouTuber, content creator, musician, and a little bit of a tinkerer at times too. I sometimes work on various projects. You can see them on my YouTube channel. And my first convention was actually Midwest Brony Fest 2016. That was very interesting because a friend invited me there when I was not a brony. So more on that later.
Okay. Ready.
Hi. Let's see. That's my nickname. I was named after the horse, and you will see why later. For creative things, I usually use Lullaby for Bears as a screen name. But I run the gamut. I do the voice acting, I do the singing, and the art, and the writing, and all the jazz. And relevant to cons, acting, and cosplay. My first con was Winnie City 2023, and I was so popular there. I came back for 24 after having been asked for at Cider Fest. Like, my friend went and requested me to come. Like, everybody was talking about me to them, so I had no choice. It was the law. I had to. I had to come back.
Nashi?
I'm an artist and a streamer. I mostly stream games or my artistic process. My first con was BabsCon 2014, I believe was the very first one. And I've only ever been a guest at cons, but this year I'm actually going to be able to be vending at Everfree in a month and a half. So I hope I can see a bunch of you there.
Okay. And
I'll be seeing you
Wastelander.
there.
Yeah.
I am the Question Wastelander. This is going to be a fun one for introductions. My first convention was an anime convention, Anime Odyssey, up in San Antonio, Texas, back in like 2012-ish era. I've been attending over 90 plus conventions since then, or volunteering about half of those numbers. For conventions, I currently do quite a bit as well, from volunteering, staffing. I've also, in the community, a voice actor for Deadshot Calamity in the upcoming Fall to Equestria animated series.
Ooh.
I've been a community guest for conventions for a couple times and recently started emerging as one. Back again. And that should cover quite a bit of it. I do panels for a lot of conventions as well. And yeah, I would like to say that should be good for that.
And of course, if you don't know who I am the Nameless One. Welcome to the channel. I do all kinds of streaming type stuff. I am a writer, and I also do a lot of community related moderation and content creation. My first convention, not unlike Wastelander over there, was actually a Comic-Con in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've also been to conventions in Japan. My first pony convention was Everfree Northwest, right before everything closed for... actually, no, I think it was right after everything started opening from COVID. One of the two. The first convention that I was a community guest for was HarmonyCon, and I've been one ever since. I also do panels on the HarmonyCon as well. May or may not end up at BabsCon this upcoming year, too.
Ooh.
Remains to be seen. Anyways, so for those of you that don't really go to conventions or don't really know what we're talking about, the Brony fandom is one of two fandoms that really have a noise happened. Brain cells stopped. we're one of two fandoms that have a dedicated convention where we get together in large groups and celebrate all things about our fandom. The other one mainly being the furry fandom, because both fandoms have a unique convention all to themselves that isn't multi-genre spanning, because anime, video games, and comic books all, like, those are the conventions that kind of started other nerd conventions, but at the same time they're not as unique as a brony or a furry convention.
Yeah, like they're overarching rather than just a single topic.
This is Trekkie erasure.
Yeah, Trekkies are around the same time as furries.
Okay, how many conventions do they have?
Trekkies
They've been going.
Quite a few. They're a large fan base.
Yes, but can
Well,
you
now
name...
it's expanded out more into more of like a sci-fi general thing, but they are the OG fandoms. It's like, I don't know.
I know they have large sections that show up in, say, the San Diego Comic-Con, the Comic-Con, but I don't see other fandoms having dedicated conventions.
I think they kind of generalized out a little bit more, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're still running. I know for a fact that there was a Doctor Who convention because one of the people who volunteered at Winnie literally ended up at Winnie because they were into Doctor Who and Star Trek and stuff, and went because John Delancey was supposed to be a guest, and that's how they ended up crossing over. But there are dedicated Doctor Who conventions too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
that makes sense.
I will rephrase what I said. Apparently, we are the ones with the more well-known dedicated conventions, because I have never heard of, despite looking for other conventions, the primary ones you hear of are either tech conventions that they don't want consumers at, or like Comic-Con and stuff like that. So I stand corrected. I will say that we also, before we get started, fun fact, we have conventions in the fandom that span all across the globe, because everybody's heard of Galicon at this point, as far as I'm aware. But there is also a Australian one, if I remember correctly, is in Sydney, and there's one in Tokyo, Japan as well. If there are other ones that I'm just not aware of them, but those two are the big ones overseas that aren't European. Because there's like 4 or 5 in Europe. Because there's a Holland one.
They used to have one in Russia as well, and then they used to have one in China. I think they have one in China still, but the one in Russia, it hasn't been going on for a while now for obvious reasons. But I know they have one there.
There's a Ponifest in Italy. Ones.
Yeah, you got the Ponifest. There's a Holland one specifically. There's the Galicon. But yeah. So this is going to be more of like an open topic where you guys can feel free to throw in things that you want to discuss with it, because I didn't necessarily have questions. This was going to end up being a lot more like talking about the conventions, pros, cons, things like that, as well as like sharing convention stories towards the end.
Why would you give me such uninhibited power?
Because I knew you were going to be here regardless.
It'll both be fun and terrifying.
So essentially,
this is
Oh, there's so many things I can go into.
Right.
So many.
what you gonna say, Peruser?
no, it's all right. I'm good.
Now, everybody look at Peruser. Peruser was going to say something.
No.
Very intently.
Peruser is now self-conscious, so he will let somebody else say something.
It's just like a convention. If you say something in a group and everyone doesn't know who you are and they look to you, you're gonna be like, oh,
Conventions, great, right?
Oh, that actually happened to me at one point during like a bad script reading panel. Everybody was kind of like, I had already done a role, and so when that role came up again, the entire room looked at me, expecting me to volunteer. So I had no choice.
Okay, how about I start us off? So, as a group, all of us have been in at least one convention, either as like a guest, a community guest, a panelist, or a vendor. What would you tell somebody that has never been to a convention? Like, why would you tell them to go to a convention other than, X person will be there, or,
Honestly, for me, my biggest thing would probably be it just feels amazing to be around so many people who are just as passionate about something as you are. And like it just is just like a really nice, almost family kind of feeling. So at least that's what I get out of it.
I
Sure.
agree. You get that really strong sense of camaraderie from being around people that have the same shared interest, and it's even more intimate when it's a type of convention that's centered around one specific thing, like My Little Pony, and not like a more generalized, like we were talking about, like a general sci-fi convention or an anime convention. Because that's actually something I noticed, because I went to my first anime con 2 years ago, and because I like anime, and I was like, oh boy, I'll go to an anime con and I'll make new friends and have a good time. And I enjoyed the convention, but it was so distinctly different from Pony because I realized that everybody who was there was a fan of something different in anime.
Mhm.
So like, I like the girly romance anime that has all kinds of soft feelings inside. So, but you go to an anime convention and most of what you see is like the top 5 most popular shonen anime right now. And like, that's just what you see everywhere. And it's like, that's cool, but like, that's not kind of what I'm here for. So it made me feel, even though it was a much, much bigger convention, I think it was like 6,000 people, I still felt not as included. Is that the right word? Or it didn't feel as tightly knit as I do when I just got back from TrotCon, which is, I believe, about 800 people. But every single person there, I know we all have the same thing in common. So, like, it makes it so much easier to, like, go up to a random person and just start a conversation. And, you're on the same wavelength with everybody immediately. And that makes it all feel so much more special and relaxing and more inclusive and nice.
Yeah.
I would actually also argue that panels are more likely to catch your interest if you go to a dedicated. Because I've been to both Comic-Cons, Anime Cons, and like tech conventions, as well as the aforementioned pony conventions that I've been to as well. And I've always found that there are more interesting panels that I actually want to go to in a dedicated convention like a PonyCon, than there is for say an anime con, because I don't watch The Walking Dead, and I've been to a Comic-Con where the selling point was the all of the actors for The Walking Dead were there. I'm just like, I'm not really interested. I tried to get an autograph from Stan Lee at one point, but good God, that line! I walked past and saw the line, came back like 3 hours later. The line was still just as long.
Oof.
Reminds me of the line to meet Lauren Faust at BronyCon 2019.
Oh gosh, I was in that line. I can vouch. I was there for 4 hours.
I got something for newcomers, for anyone who wishes to go convention. This is like one of the things I love doing. For anyone who's interested in going to their first convention, whether it's panelist, attendee, volunteer, vendor, any position you would like to go for a convention, I say there's a convention for almost everybody. From like Brony conventions, furry conventions, sci-fi, gaming, Comic-Con, anime, Disney, business ones. There are ones for almost everybody, and I've heard we've talked about two of them. For instance, an anime convention of 6,000 to one of TrotCon about 800. There are various types of sizes of conventions that can range from like very small knit groups to about 100 to a couple hundred or less, which are very welcoming and very, less stressful because it's easy to find people there. I love those ones. I prefer the smaller conventions to medium-sized conventions where it's like a couple of hundred to almost 1,000, and then you get the large conventions which are over 1,000 to like a couple thousand, like Anime Expo, where they get a couple in the 10,000 range sometimes, which it can be really amazing to see everything. But for those of you who prefer smaller audiences or smaller groups, they can be a little overwhelming sometimes too.
I still remember going to Nico Nico. It's a convention in Japan. They took up 5 buildings, all of which were big enough to house a single PonyCon all by itself.
Holy crap.
I didn't even explore that in a weekend.
Yeah,
DragonCon is like the epitome of a big convention. It's an anime convention, but in the anime scene, we call it the Party Con. It is the Party Con of all cons because literally it's for anime, but it's the biggest party convention. It's like a party throughout the entire time you're there.
I mean,
and it spans multiple buildings.
It's a con that needs its own public transportation.
Yes. DragonCon is so big. Yeah, and there's, again, conventions all over the world. So, whether in the States, Canada, South America, Europe, Russia, Asia. I don't know about Africa so much. There probably is some, but I don't know too much about that continent to speak on it. But there are plenty of conventions around the world to attend to. Like we were talking about the ones in Europe, like Galicon, Holland, and then there's UK PonyCon in the UK. We got Epona Fest in Italy, Gazette Equestria in Gazette Republic, one in Australia, one in Japan. And I believe there's another one or two that are just not popping in my head right now, but there's a few more in Europe as well.
Yeah.
We need to crowdfund and get a convention going in Antarctica.
Yes.
Glacier climbing, let's go!
Then we'll be on every continent.
My tickets would be the most astronomical price there is.
I will.
Be there
If we manage to pull something like that off, I will be the first to say I will not be there.
If I show up, someone else will
get you cold.
Okay.
I am warm weather horse, not cold weather horse.
mood.
Same. For me, I'm a hot weather child. Like you can put me up to 110, 120 degree heat. I'll be fine. 65 and under. Oh, I'm putting a jacket and more and stuff on. I freeze up.
Um, so, would you guys, in your guys' opinions, for a first timer, should they stick to guest, or do you think they should jump feet first into the various roles that you can take within conventions?
I think I'm the newest one here, so you guys might be further away from what it feels like to be a newbie. But I went to my first con just to see my friends, basically, and had a nice time, but there was an extent to which I was kind of like mostly sticking to them, you know? So we ended up like not really taking full advantage of the con. And then the very next year I volunteered. And I feel like volunteering is really helpful for getting you into the swing of things because there's like a all hands meeting at the beginning where you get kind of the rundown of what to expect, which I think is actually helpful even if you don't know what's going on. But you'll end up not always having the opportunity to go to the things that interest you the most because you have dedicated yourself to a shift. So it's like if you really want to go to this panel, this panel, this panel, and this panel, then there's a possibility you'll only make like 2 of them, depending on what kind of work you volunteer to do. So it's kind of like if you want a little freedom and wiggle room and just to get your feelings out, you might be better off as a guest the first time. But if you're like someone who feels a little lost and confused and like kind of needs a job in order to feel useful, if you're like away from home, then you might actually feel more comfortable as a volunteer, and you're also going to get like a probably more personal experience because you get to get up close and personal with the staff, and they're more likely to like give you tips along the way. I think you guys can continue now.
That's actually an interesting perspective because I remember volunteering for Ciderfest 2022, and I actually found that while I did enjoy the work and actually helping bring the convention together, that personally I didn't find myself enjoying it as much because I missed out on so many of the events that I really wanted to go to, especially when you're working AV team. Oh, you're going to be running around like crazy at the start and the end of the convention because you got to get there a day early, you got to leave a day late because you have to help them set up the stages, the lights, the sound, all this stuff. And you're running all over the place carrying heavy equipment, and there's just no time to really enjoy myself. So I think for me personally, I prefer going as a guest with friends that I really trust and experiencing it that way. But yeah, if you prefer like having an actual job to do and like helping out, then definitely go for volunteering.
Yeah, as someone who's been both a guest and a staff member at cons, me personally, I prefer just being a guest because you're more likely to be able to do everything you want to do. But I can definitely see where, like, someone would like to be a volunteer more than a guest.
Oh, another thought. You might also, if you're not super into ponies, like you're just kind of like a casual fan, be more comfortable starting off as a volunteer and going with friends who are guests. Because then you'll kind of like have a station, you know, like where you have something to do. It's not totally your deal, so there's only a couple things that interest you anyways, so they can like work around what you wanted to do. And then you can kind of just like have something so that you're not bored out of your mind while your friends are having fun.
What were you going to say, Peruser?
I'd like to piggyback off that a little bit too and say like, if you're first time, I definitely recommend going as a guest first. Just so you have the freedom to go and do and see whatever it is you want to go and do and see. But something that gives me a lot of comfort is like being a vendor specifically. If you're a creative type and you have aspirations of vending in the first place. But what I particularly enjoy about vending is I can be in the middle of a large convention, but I have a space that is my own that I can like be in and exist in and retreat to, and still have the convention happen around me. so it doesn't feel as overwhelming as if I was just out in the middle of it as a guest. Being a
makes sense.
naturally shy, like anxious kind of person, it helps me to have my own little hidey hole, even though it's in plain sight. It's like it's my hidey hole. Like I can step behind the booth, and it's like I belong here. But
Right.
I can still be in the middle of all the action and see everything happening, and I can venture out of my hidey hole to go see things, and then retreat back to it when I'm done. So that's something that I like about being a vendor specifically. Is it gives me that kind of comfort.
That makes sense.
So, from my perspective, yes, coming as an attendee would actually be my recommendation because, as we discussed, as the others have discussed here, it's you come here, you want to meet up with friends, and you want to actually get a feel for the convention. Not only that, you would like to understand how it works. As for your first convention, you're stepping into a completely different world, so to speak. And it's basically a break from reality for the weekend. So you're there to enjoy your time with other people. Sometimes you might go on your own, so it could be a little daunting. So, until the time you get used to things, going as an attendee is my always recommendation. Then once you're there are many paths you can choose. Like, for instance, of volunteering. You can go in as AV, you can work as, security, you can work as a general attendee, registration, you can work with IT, not human resources, like advertising, you can work with, being a VIP handler sometimes. You can also work with as a, my brain is just blanked for some reason, but there are countless roles you can do as volunteer. There's also, perhaps if you're a musical type, you can come in as a musician, put some applications in for that. If you prefer to speak on a subject or, present a subject you are comfortable with, whether it's writing, video streaming, gaming, creativity, like actually creating stuff, because I've seen some like Dusty Cat ones where he has guitars, and those are pretty fun to watch.
Nice.
And if you just want to speak on certain subjects, you can always be a panelist. If you are the creative type, you can be a vendor, artist, and if you want to do eventually over time, all the above, there's where community guest comes in. And there's plenty of options for someone to do. It's just, take your time. You don't have to jump into things immediately if you don't feel comfortable with it. Just go to a few conventions if you feel you need more time to adjust, and just get a use for the hang of things. And then, over time, if you wish to volunteer or do some things for the convention, you can always talk to people who are there. I kid you not. Go talk to artists and vendors. They're stuck at a table and they enjoy conversation. They need it.
Some of them.
Oh yeah.
One more quick thought on that. So it's interesting that this question was asked because my very first convention ever was actually a pony convention before I was a brony at Midwest Brony Fest 2016. And so coming from the brand new convention attendee sort of perspective, I could definitely see where going with a friend group there would be better, because I had friends who were bronies and who were just like, hey, you want to come along? And I was like, sure, I have nothing else going on. I want to check this out and see what it's all about. And that is what set me... Exactly, yes. That is the path that set me to becoming a brony. Mostly because I'd never seen anything like it. I had never been to a vendor hall where there was art and VR demos and gaming and music and all this great stuff that was just like, what? The fandom is this? What? You could do all of this? And so it was a bit overwhelming, but because I wasn't a major part of the fandom yet, I could also take my time. And so there were times where my friends wanted to go do various panels or events, and I could just sort of wander around and explore and find things, or just sit there and just decompress. And so that was really, really helpful because, it was a brand new world to me. but then later, as I joined the fandom, then you can start getting more involved and sort of trying all sorts of new things every convention. So that is a good point.
A friend group trying to get you to a brony convention is just human kidnapping with kindness and sincerity.
Yeah, I
Pretty
only
much.
went to my first one because it was close enough to one of my friends that he could drive, so the rest of us flew over, and it was basically just a friend group meetup with a PonyCon backdrop. But then I kind of rocked the con so hard that I couldn't. No, I did. I became incredibly popular. They asked for me back. The reason I volunteered the second time is because I was in high demand. That's an absurd thing to feel as a person. They just want you there. You're part of their energy.
That's cool.
It was incredibly flattering, but not something I think I could get anywhere else, at least to that extent. Not as ardently.
Fair.
Maybe if I went to a party princess zone, but there aren't any around here.
So, I actually fully agree with you want to go by yourself first, as a guest, not as a volunteer or any of that. Whether or not you go with friends just kind of depends on the type of person, honestly, because there are times that I prefer just wandering around on my own because I like being able to wander from friend to friend, because at this point, the convention that I go to, it feels like I know most of the community guests and half the vendors, so also half the musicians too. So it's easy to just wander around from friend to friend, but if you feel the need to entertain someone while doing so, it does become kind of more difficult, because you got the one person that's standing in the background looking like you dragged them here, because I've had that happen before. So it's up to you whether you go in with a friend group or not. I do recommend having friends there, though, at the very least. So if you don't have friends there, go make some. It's what conventions are for.
Friendship is magic.
Yeah.
Once you get a feel for the vibe of a convention, though, because each convention's got its own kind of vibe. Pony conventions will have a same generalized vibe, but there's differences to them. So I generally, for myself, will go with most conventions. I will go to it first as just a guest, and then second, as the second time, I will try to apply for all of the things that I usually do. With the exception of if I do manage to make it out to BabsCon, I will be going as both a community guest and panelist if they will allow me. But that's a special situation since it's the last one.
Yeah.
Another thing you could consider is the cost of conventions. Going with a friend group definitely helps you cut down on costs, because you could split a hotel room or carpool or
find the one guy that lives within an hour drive.
Lucky.
Oh, that was actually part of why I volunteered the second time. I wasn't sure if I could handle it financially, so one of the people who were trying to talk me into volunteering was well, if you volunteer, you don't have to pay for the weekend pass at all. So I got that cut off it. And there was a discount on the room price. And there's a volunteer housing option. So you ended up being able to find roommates through other volunteers pretty easily. So I had a room with 4 people in it, and I didn't have to pay anything because my friend was treating me. But the reason I could go is because I got Cinderella there. My friend paid my way, and my sister took care of things at home. So I was really blessed to be able to go to the one that had Tabitha St. Germain, because I voice other characters. It was kind of illegal not to meet her, but I also got to meet Katrina Hadley, which was the ideal guest situation, was those two. So I was blessed. But the fact is, if they weren't able to offer the volunteer options, I would not have been comfortable asking my friend to pay that much for me,
Right.
It's one of those things where it absolutely does help and incentivize you to volunteer, that they are willing to help you cut the costs of going to the con.
Community guests also get a very similar help out with that. I know the entry tickets, if you get accepted as a community guest, they won't charge you for the entry tickets. Though I end up paying for one anyways because I want the lanyard and the fancy shirt and all of that, and that's not part of the package for community guests, at least at HarmonyCon. Although,
Yeah, unless you have to go to like the con store separately to get that stuff. Otherwise,
yeah. Although maybe we can convince them to change it eventually.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, it depends on the It depends on the convention and their policies for community guests, but each one's definitely different.
I mean, there's also a trade out, I think, because when you do choose to volunteer, you can choose to volunteer at the area that interests you the most. So I was actually
Yep.
in the community, like not the community, the activity room for Winnie City. So I got to hang out with kids, which is something I always enjoy doing. They adore me. And like I got to help with the kind of crafty things that I enjoy doing. So if you can get yourself a volunteering job doing something that's like kind of something you were going to go to anyways, then you're better off than just like throwing yourself at an arena and hoping that like it happens to be one you're happy with. At least if you're going to do it as a cost trade-off.
Right.
Personally, I've never been interested in volunteering primarily because I want to be able to do all of the things that interest me. Because I get irritated whenever they schedule panels when I tell them that I would like them not to. That has happened on multiple occasions. You know, they're trying to do panels and then
weirder one to go on to.
But I know that feeling.
Before we move on topics, for those of you that are creators that have never done a panel, or some of you don't even have to be creators to do panels, but if you're a creator and never been a community guest, my recommendation is to do it at least apply once to one. Like, my recommendation is normally your home con, whatever that con happens to be. Or if you're going to a con as like kind of a one-off, like I am with Babs, if you're gonna do that kind of stuff, try out for community guest. I've been told that Everfree is the only one that doesn't do application, but I've also been told that Everfree does do community guest application, so it doesn't hurt to apply as a community guest. Sometimes they have up to 30-something community guests because they couldn't find any, or whatever circumstance, for no VIP guests, hardly. So there's a good chance that you can get in. But either keep up with what you can do content-wise or just be persistent.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to apply as one at HarmonyCon, but they haven't accepted me yet, but that's fine. I'll just keep persistently bugging them.
Didn't you only get the first... this year's your first one, though?
No, so... I actually applied last year's as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. To add to the comment, sticking to your home con as your first one if you have one. That is exactly why I put in my application for Everfree, because I am literally like 15 minutes away from the location.
Yeah. As a two-time community guest for HarmonyCon, I would say that the hardest part is if they actually let you speak on stage. They didn't let us this year. We just kind of ran across the stage and everybody forgot who we were. But
yeah, that was, what was it, the 20 plus community guests?
It was over 30.
Yeah,
I think all said and done, there was 31 of us, which is why they stopped accepting people, because they kept accepting people to the point there's like, we can't. I believe it was Sapphire Sister, and they told him, it's like, we would have you on, but there's too many of you. But
too many bronies on one stage. We can't handle that many.
But yeah, the hardest part that I've run into is if they like let you actually say something on stage, and just prepare yourself. I guess that's what I did. Just know what you're gonna say it, and get off. Unless, of course, you're just one of those like Cole Donnerstag that can just steal the stage and
Just
then
wing it, yeah.
steal the stage, wing it, and won't shut up.
Yeah.
One of the community guests at the last con I went to, and they must have had like a time limit or something because he didn't talk for very long. But like I remember being like, I need to let him know so that we can say hi to each other, and then I didn't see him again the entire con. So I was like, okay, farewell, Cole. We will be voice message friends only. We will be on the community hub together.
Yeah, that's another thing that you can do for conventions. That's something that I recommend is if you have a community that all share the same passion, even if it's just a friend group, use cons as a way to coordinate seeing some of those people you don't normally see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I even go.
Yep, exactly.
Like I go to see 2 or 3 specific people, and I want them to love me.
For me,
Senpai?
What's up?
It's just a feeling good anime conventions. Notice me, senpai. Notice me.
But for me, I run multiple communities, one of which being the Creator Hub, and like we coordinated stuff outside of like the actual con like setup stuff and all of that, and we had like a room party and things like that to like celebrate with each other, be able to like meet people we would never have been able to meet in person, things like that. It was a lot of fun, so I would highly recommend that. I would say that room parties may not be for everybody, but it is a good way to actually be able to like slow down a bit and chat with people.
I would like to do a room play. I would like to host a play where in my room we were reenacting an episode of the show, and then everybody can watch politely from the hallway and clap when we do something funny.
That'd be interesting.
I haven't heard of that happening.
You know what?
That
I'm
sounds
down
like a
for
cool
that.
idea.
Hey, the
Why
first time I went to
specifically
con,
from
my
the
friend
hallway?
went with me, and we were cosplaying as Twilight, Applejack, and Rarity. So we did like a little look before you sleep in our hotel room as a joke.
Nice.
Before you sleep, oh my god.
Yeah, well, we gotta. When you have got that configuration of roommates, it's fate.
That's fair, yeah.
Who gets the final pillow? That's the fight I want to see.
Yes. Or who engineers the pillow cannon?
Oh my god.
Whoever's
That would
playing
be
is
something
Pinkie
I want
Pie.
to see. I want to run a panel for an actual pillow fight, just like a nice, fun pillow fight for a convention, and just or a dodgeball pillow fight. That'd be so much fun. Just like everybody grab a pillow off the line, like a dodgeball, just throw them at each other.
I don't know if the
It'd
lineup
be easier to throw.
If the lineup for HarmonyCon is as stacked as it was this year, you might not be able to get them to accept one like that.
I mean, I think the theme for it this year is musicals, so I feel like they're more likely to accept panels that are like across their theme. Like if I were to, I've never done a panel before, but if I were to do like an acting workshop of a panel, then it would be more likely to get in, I would suspect, than something less tuned to the vibe of the con they're at.
Right.
Not necessarily. Just from like from like a staff or volunteer standpoint, essentially, I'm not gonna say I could speak for all conventions, but majority of the time, what we would like to try to do is to have to accommodate for audiences all types. So we would like to have creative panels. We'd like to have, writer panels, video panels, actor panels, both voice and in person. And we'd also like to have some different ones, because if you have all the same thing, it starts to feel repetitive, or like, oh, I already went to this panel, or I already did a panel similar to that. So generally, we like to try to keep it mixed up to not have it completely chaotic, like pure chaos, but have it to where we allow for a lot of different things, so everybody feels like there's something for them to experience and for something for them to feel comfortable in. And that's generally the idea when we try to allow for panels or schedule panels or do panel acceptances. we kind of want to make sure everybody has a chance to offer what they can and offer a variety. So I guess it can feel like, depending on if there's always a theme for a convention, you want to stick to that theme, and that's fair. Like, if there's a D&D themed like pony convention, like I think TrockCon was doing that before, or
I'm
they
so
did
mad I
a
missed
fantasy
that.
themed one. Yeah. Same here. I really wish I could have gone. But, seeing that theme, like, okay, well, maybe we'll do some more D&D panels. I mean, that's fair. If you want to do something, that's great. But at the same time, if you want to do something different, definitely feel free to try. There's no harm in trying to put something different in. The worst that can happen is like, no, we can't. We're not doing that type, or no, we don't have enough room for that. Or, we already filled up on panels, stuff like that. But always good to try.
I'm also
Yeah.
so this is a bit of a switch in subject a little. I'm starting to notice too that conventions, for those that are interested in being community guests, they're starting to like have less of the same group of like 5 people and more new people that aren't necessarily like massive names that everybody knows, that are starting to like pick up traction. Some of them, others maybe almost entirely unheard of, but there's more and more people that aren't, your AC race bests or silver quills, or like you do still see some of what seems to be like the at one point have been, or at least at one point have been, the like main group of people that was always at a convention, but
Right.
it seems like they're starting to look more for new creators as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I would like to
Which
say,
is
as it should be, because
Right.
we started off, even AC Race Best and Silver Quill and all the big names, they started off as small time persons, or sometimes just out of from nowhere, like with no followings, and they had to start from rock bottom too.
Mhm.
And all the new guests had to start from rock bottom. So it's good to have a mixture of highly popular people and newer people. Same thing with musicians or vendors or artists. You want to give people, especially in the Brony community, this is where I feel like it's the biggest impact, or the most important impact, because it's like what we were founded upon, was giving people a chance to shine, giving people a chance to promote themselves, to get out there and show their stuff. And it's a fair trade to have a popular group of people and a new group of people, so everybody gets a chance. And I feel it's a great thing to do for conventions.
Right,
Show up
and
to
that's one of the really big things about the Brony community in particular, is we're all willing to help each other, and
Yeah.
and some of the bigger creators are willing to give the smaller creators advice, and then the smaller creators can then go around and turn a brand new creator some advice. It's just really great because we can all help each other grow and learn and just hone our crafts.
Precisely, yeah.
I do also want to touch on, so I know that back in, what was it, 2019, BronyCon had its last convention, and everybody thought that was the end of the Brony convention scene. Or at least that's
Even
the
though
sentiment on the internet
BronyCon-
that I saw.
Even though BronyCon hadn't been the biggest con for like the past 3 years before that.
Yeah, and I've also had some people that were worried because BabsCon was shutting down, and then there's also been, I don't know how to verify any of it, but I've heard that there's some cons that have had number dips.
Uh-oh.
But
Yeah, because of the pandemic. I know that
Yeah.
it was a big thing for Winnie this year that they were back up to pre-pandemic numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
And
recovery, healing.
the thing
we've
that
seen
gets
it.
me about the people that are panicking about cons shrinking or closing is they seem to be ignoring the fact that we've been having new cons appearing too.
True.
the main one I remember hearing about, because, Twitter burst into flames over it, was Mare Fair. But are there others that have popped up?
Actually, there is one that is working to pop up, in fact, in New York. I can
I
actually
think I
speak a
remember
little bit
seeing
about this one. This one is called Hearth's Warming Club. Starting up in December 2025 in New York. Details are still being ironed out, so I can't speak too much on like specifics. But it's essentially going to be like a very, it's I want to say a different atmosphere to where most conventions you go to see like high profile people. You know, sometimes you go see just to buy some things. This one's more about the community. I want to say we want to thrive more on like people interacting with each other, just having fun, actually relaxing, and just experiencing the ideals of friendship or the pillars of friendship to where everyone just doesn't feel stressed out. You know, we're not going to have like a huge number of attendees. We're going to max out at a certain number, so that way it doesn't feel too stressful. But it just it's that's pretty much the gist of Heartwarming Club,
That
and
sounds
it's
like
going to
a
be
cup
a
of hot
Christmas
cocoa.
theme.
that
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
yeah.
It'd be
That's
interesting
Yeah,
to
a
and
see
con I
how
would
that
love to
goes.
be able to visit.
But yeah, from what I've been hearing, like the with that one and Mayfair going off really successfully, like there's been a lot of new um there's been a lot of new con like as far as cons are concerned, because like if you look at it, there's not a lot of cons, so even one or two is a lot more impactful than say there's like 5 new artists that popped up today.
Yeah,
That's like a drop in the bucket compared to like something that has like at most 20. So any new convention, it shows that there is a type of growth that you can't really get if BronyCon was the last of the cons.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's also fair to say that every convention can only go on for so long.
yeah.
For instance, I can speak about one Acon. Acon is the perhaps, if I remember, yeah, it's the oldest anime convention in the United States. I think in the world, but I could be wrong on that. Japan might actually have one that's older, but I could be wrong again. But it's essentially the oldest one in the United States is Acon, and it's been going on for almost, I think, over 30 years now. But it's starting to slow down. It's starting to drop down in numbers. It's not super bad yet, but eventually, even older ones will eventually fade. And it just depends on a number of factors: finances, things going around the world, other conventions popping up. Because now everyone's got to figure out, oh, I can only afford to do certain conventions. This one's closer. This one has this person going, or my friends are going to this one, or other reasons. Everyone has to be able to afford conventions, and unfortunately, we can't afford them all. It's nothing wrong with that. It's just how things are. And there's also like depending on how many volunteers they get to run a convention, sometimes they don't have enough to keep it running, and they have to cancel for a year, or plenty of other reasons as to why a convention may have to, like Epona Fest. It didn't. It didn't. By the way, it did not It did not close. They just had to postpone it for a year for some reasons, but they couldn't do it for 1 year, so they just said, "Hey, we're not going to be able to do it this year, but we'll do it next year." And they already announced their plans, so I can't wait to go see that one next year. But conventions will rise and fall. It's just natural,
Yeah,
and even older ones, bigger ones, small ones, there'll be more that pop up. The only time, even if there's no conventions at all for a year, I wouldn't say that means the fandom is dead. It just means a convention or a main event isn't happening.
yeah,
As the need for it continues to grow, so will the desire, and conventions will pop up again.
exactly.
Yep.
So if I can remember where my brain cell went.
Sorry,
Hey,
I'm
it's not with
sorry.
me.
I just
I
want to say
think you
one
can
thing.
find mine too. I lost it somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
We
you just
derailed
described the
everything.
process of economics. Okay, continue.
um,
Hurting brain cells is like hurting candles. Come here,
so
come here, brain cell.
for to kind of like continue piggybacking off of that, from what I've been seeing, a lot of conventions now that we've finally gotten past all of the COVID stuff and all of the pandemic problems, numbers are getting bigger. Which one was it that broke a record recently? For there was one that like broke a one of its records for like donations for the charity auction.
I believe that was Cyberfest.
Mm-hmm.
A few of them did. I know that Winnie beat its donation record at the charity auction again. Like, it beat it last year, and then it beat it again this year.
Nice.
It was like almost, I want to say it was like at least $14,000. At least one of them was, and I think it got even higher. Just an insane amount of money to me.
So Cyberfest, I believe it was last year, their charity auction broke $100,000.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. So yeah,
HarmonyCon also broke their numbers too. Not Starterfest numbers, but HarmonyCon broke their previous numbers. Not this year. It was, I think, the last one, not the one you and I went to, or the first one the first one you and I met at. I think they broke their numbers big time too for their charity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know somebody thinks that I am picking on him because of this, but he's not the only one that I've heard say something to the effect of the fandom's dying because the cons are dying. I feel like a lot of people got the whole like COVID restrictions and everything misconstrued with the cons dying out, and we have a brand new con that showed up that yes, it caused a lot of controversy, but everything that
I blame Florida for that, not necessarily the con itself.
Sorry, guys, I'm in there. I'm sorry.
You're
the Florida girl. No.
Well, actually,
I'm so sorry. I moved to Florida, so they started a con here specifically because of the energy I brought to the state. I'm so sorry.
Well, I don't know. This con was actually started by what's that name of that? The name of the website has now just entirely skipped my brain. 4chan. Yeah.
4chan, yeah.
4chan was the one, like, it was a 4chan started convention that was kind of meant for 4chaners as well as just, like, general bronies. So you had
4chaners don't really mix with
anybody?
Or anyone.
Yeah, they're really very much, you gotta keep them in their own little society and cloister them.
There's a lot of, like, what they consider inside jokes that are not appropriate for most people. So
they made one just for 4chan. It'd just be another DashCon, I think.
From what I heard about it, talking to people that have been to the convention, the worst that came from it were normally from people that weren't like representative of the con itself. Like they had some questionable chanting and things like that from attendees, but for the most part, like everything that, because I know Jojo, I talked to him about it, and everything that he said about it was like it was a very well run con.
Nice.
So it's definitely one of those that it's if you're in the area, it should be one that you should at least give it a look before you write it off because Twitter burst into flames. Because Twitter bursts into flames every time someone sneezes.
I never take Twitter as an example for anything.
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter. I will, you know what, I'll go into the trenches for you guys as a local. I'll see what it's like.
Be our undercover agent.
Of course. I'll even wear the hat.
Don her subterfuge.
I'll wear the outfit. I'll wear the Rarity Investigates outfits for you.
Yes, there you go.
I will snoop and I'll take pictures and I'll tell you guys what happened.
You gotta wear the Fluttershy sneaking suit. With like the bunny ears. That's what you gotta do.
I'm so sorry, but I don't own any bunny ears. I do, however, own the contents of... I know how to make a hat work. I've got I have like the base for a hat like that. Literally in front of me. I can see it and it's boring into my soul. Okay, continue.
Just have Rarity Noir attend.
Okay, the thing about cons and me is I went to my first one as Rarity because I had the wig already, and I was like, well, I have no choice. The theme was Tropical Vacation. So I wore her Equestria Girls like bathing suit for the first day, and then I made a nightgown because the joke was that on the last day she was just too tired to do anything, so she just rolled out of bed. And in the middle day, I wore her camping outfit from Sleepless in Ponyville. And
Nice.
that actually won the novice cosplay contest because I'd never been in a cosplay contest before, so I was entered as a novice. And it won
nice.
first prize for the division. And then this
Nice.
year, the
Nice.
theme was summer camp, so I reused the glamping outfit because I learned I was going with very little notice. So I was like, okay, well, you're gonna be reused, and I'll like save myself a little work. And then I made the Camp Everfree camping outfit, and that won best in show. But I go in character when I go to cons because
right.
once you're in character, like once you have the costume on, everything else goes on too. You can't
Makes
turn
sense.
it off. Once you got the wig on and the makeup on, you're locked in. You can't help but be at least a little bit in character at all times if you are me. So I would go up to people and compliment them, and I would I made little paper kisses because I wasn't sure with the COVID restrictions if I'd be able to like have a mask off so I would be able to blow them. So I made little paper kisses where I had have a rarity kiss, darling, and then I like kissed the inside of it like they were little fold up things, and then I like sprayed it with alcohol to make it sanitary. And then I would just pass those out to people, and I got like a comment on the con Discord that made somebody's con. So I was like, I guess I'm doing that again. And this
Wow.
year I got different colored paper and then was able to customize it to what people were wearing for their cosplays. So there was I can't remember what I did for everyone, but I do know that there was one Applejack I gave a kiss that said like, good things are better when they're from Rarity, darling. Mwah. Like so
I feel like with the COVID restrictions pretty much entirely gone, that's going to like boost numbers even more because it feels like we have had a massive influx of people just in general. So, now they're going to start hearing about these conventions that all of us keep going to and going on and on about. So
Yes.
we're going to start seeing more and more people show up.
Yeah, COVID restrictions definitely impacted the vendor side of things, I can say for sure. Because when you go to a con where they have a mask mandate still, they can't enforce it in the general areas, but they enforce it for like the vendor hall and the panel rooms and stuff like that. And it was very common, I noticed, that like people would start to go into the vendor hall and then just be like, oh heck, I don't have my mask, or like I don't feel like putting my mask back on. I won't go in. And it's just that tiny little barrier of entry that people just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Mhm.
And it led to like just lower traffic and lower engagement and just
Right.
yeah. I was happy to see the mask mandate lifted for TrotCon this year.
I know that I've talked to some people who don't like the mask mandate because either they have panic attacks or they will have issues with breathing with the mask on. So, like, they would avoid places that required masks. I also knew people that wouldn't go because either they were vaccinated and didn't have their card anymore, or they weren't vaccinated and didn't want to jump through the hoops that it required to get the tests for it.
Right. Yeah.
So with those going away, I feel like it's going to only help the conventions at this point.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Until the next virus.
I do feel like there's still going to be there's still going to be those handful of people who's like, are there going to be mask mandates?
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of them this year for HarmonyCon. I was watching the Discord trying to see what they were going to do with that.
Wait, what? 4?
Yeah, there was quite a few people that would ask what the mask policy was.
Oh, people. I thought you were talking about the mandates. I'm like, wait, there were? I had no idea. I didn't even know.
That's what
Me neither.
I was like the one person who wasn't paying attention to the rules at the time.
Wait a minute. You mean I was supposed to be wearing a mask while doing that panel? Oops.
I failed as community guest.
So, I think before we continue, I'm a look at Peruser. Tell us about what it's like being a vendor, because you're sitting over there quietly.
That's kind of what I like about it. I get to sit over here quietly. Thank you for ruining that for me.
You knew I was going to. It was only a matter of time.
I think I hit on the kind of the main thing earlier is like having my own little space to exist within the con. Just about vending in general. Well, I guess I could give like a brief little history of myself. Like I said, I've been part of this fandom since early 2011. I remembered starting watching the show when season 1 was still airing, so I'm pretty proud of that. Started getting involved in the fandom proper, going on DeviantArt, seeing all the wonderful art and stuff, seeing these plushies that people were making and thinking, wow, that looks really cool. I bet I could try that. Had never sewn ever before in my life, but decided to give it a shot. Sold my first couple plushies on eBay, of all places. Don't recommend that because it's it doesn't work very well.
I can
It
imagine.
does sound difficult.
But so I never had any aspirations of vending at a con for a long time. I was just kind of content to make things, play around, like see what I could do. I was a big fan of the comics when they were first coming out. Well, still am. But so I ended up making a Wheatgrass plushie, which she is a character from one of the Andy Price's comic issues.
I love her. She's one of the hippie ponies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's the hippie pony. So I made a plushie of her and posted her online for sale. And Andy Price messaged me, and he wanted to buy her.
Oh,
Holy shit.
That was in 2013. So that was so cool because I got to meet him in person at not a Brony convention, actually. It was Cincinnati Comic Con. But I got to meet him there and hand him Wheatgrass in person, and that was one of the coolest interactions I've ever had.
That's awesome.
that's amazing.
And so starting then, I've got a cool picture. Man, I should have shared that picture because I've got that picture too. So starting then, I was like, wow, maybe I'm actually pretty good at this. Maybe I should try like vending at a convention or something because that was kind of a big milestone. So I just threw my hat in the ring for BronyCon, the biggest Brony convention ever. Like, they'll never say yes to me. I'm just a newbie. They accepted me. Oh no! What do I do?
That's
I have,
funny. I understand that feeling. I understand that feeling because that's how it happened for me with HarmonyCon. I was like, I want to be a community guest. They don't know who I am, but I might as well. Oh no!
Oh no, they like me. What do I do? So, and that was a big deal for me because, like, I had never traveled out of state. I had never flown on an airplane. I had never gone like anywhere outside of like my immediate area for something before. And now I'm going to be vending in this faraway land called Baltimore. Like, oh no, what do I do? So I sort of just threw myself into it, and I ended up making, I want to say something like 16 ponies, all with different patterns. Do not ask me how I did it, because I don't think I could do it today. Not that quickly. So I went and had my first showing at BronyCon, and I was like, I didn't know what to expect, because, again, there was still that notion of like, okay, I'm just, a small fish in a big pond. I'm just one more person here. I'm just lucky to be here, kind of thing. It's like I wasn't expecting, anything as far as like success or like, anything like that. I sold out my entire stock in 2 hours.
Wow.
And
Dang.
that was the moment where I was like, okay, there's something to this. Like, not only either just my abilities as a crafter, but also the fandom itself. Because, yeah, there must be a certain quality to my work, but also it takes a certain kind of caring fandom to want to invest in a smaller, unknown artist like me too, like that. And I still remember the faces of the people as they would come around the corner and see my booth for the first time. And I remember like how their faces would light up as they saw the things that I had for sale, and especially the ones that I made sales to. It just felt like I made their life better in that exact moment, and that transferred to me too. And it's like I want more of this, so that started me on the path for doing it like all the time, because like I liked that feeling that it gave me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do more of that as time went by, and I still enjoy doing that now.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I like.
What
I
was?
don't
Did
think
I actually answer the question? I'm sorry, I rambled
That's
sometimes.
that's perfectly fine. So I feel like since we made the vendor talk about the vending things, you and I should probably talk about community guest and panelist for PonyCon's Wastelander. And I'm gonna make you go first because I always go last.
Knew there was a catch. So let's start with I'll start with the panels and go into community guests because it's easier to explain one before the other. So for me, I've been doing panels for God, how long has it been? 2013, I would say I've been doing panels since then. And I found that when I first wanted to do a panel, my first thought was like, okay, what can I offer? What do I feel comfortable about talking about, or going over? And what I found started off with doing convention horror stories, which was a panel about not actually like horrible or terrifying things that happen at conventions, but more of like funny or interesting stories of things that have happened at conventions. Like, for a slight example, we call this one night Night of the Furries. I'm not going into the details of that one, but it's just a title, for example. And there's plenty of stories of what I've experienced at conventions, and ever since then, I've felt like I want to interact more with people. I want to show them what I can do and just have fun with them and teach them things or guide them. And so it started going into panels where I do the magic of convention friendships. Volunteering is magic, convention planning 101, so on and so forth, to where I wish to aid and help people and just discuss from my experiences of conventions to help people have a better experience or to have a better time or more planned time for conventions themselves. Like, it's including how to stay safe and still have fun, things like that. And I've also helped out with other panels like cosplay chess or Pokemon Live Battle. Those are so much fun to do. Oh my god, you have no idea. And Bardic Insights was another group where they did like improv comedy. I've helped them with theirs, Whose Lines the Anime or stuff like that. And overall, it's just so much fun. Where I've joined in, wait, Nameless, were you? No, wait, you weren't with that one for Bobby C's panel. Dang. But his was another example. For like wasn't My Little Millionaire. It was another one. Dang, I can't remember the name of it, but Bobby C's panels are just so much fun. And I got to help with that one, and that's where we start going into the community guests one. Community guests, from my viewpoint, a community guest is somebody who who has something to offer to benefit the community, and someone who is the mediator between the community, the convention, the VIP, or some of the VIPs are, we're the mediators who are in the middle of everything. And as community guests, my goal is to make sure that I use, kind of like my panels, I use my experiences and my guidance to ensure everybody else has a nice, safe, fun time at conventions, and to help them if they have questions. Like, there's a lot of newcomers at conventions, and if they spot me or they see me, like, hey, I had a quick question. I'm like, yeah, sure, hit me. Like, I will take my time, more than happy to take my time to ensure people find what they need to find, whether it's just, where's the nearest restroom, where's this panel room, are there any things for this, or do you know what the time for this is? I want to do this, or some like any question they have, I feel helpful answering. So when I started doing community guests, I was, or well, not started, returned is a better term for it. I returned as a community guest for conventions, so I can help people and have fun, and as well as working with people like Nameless or Bobby or Joey Fiora. Let's see who else. There's a lot. Oh my god! Like just having a fun time meeting with people, interacting, and just helping other people out. And Nameless also mentioned this a while ago, or Carla, I think it was mentioned. I may have gotten it mixed up back. It was like early in the conversation of the podcast where we were talking about how community guests help older community guests can help newer community guests, and we just build each other up. We have different experiences, we have different ideas, and expertise and things. So we help each other out. We guide each other. We give each other advice, and all we can do to help make things better for the convention and the community as a whole. And ever since then, it's just I've been wanting to do it more and more often, so I can just help people out and have a fun time at the same time.
Definitely.
Okay, my turn. So
Yes, Nameless, your turn.
for me, to get a little personal with it, I had just come off the back of a nasty breakup, and had decided that I needed to make some new con memories, and decided that, you know what, because I had talked to Pepper, the person that is in charge of setting up, like he's the con chair for HarmonyCon, and I had asked him about community guests, and I had found out that it's application based, and so I was like, well, hell yeah, I can do that. So when I was like thinking about HarmonyCon, I was like, I'm gonna just go all in. There's no way they're gonna accept me. Shit. I spent pretty much the entire rest of the year in just like a state of panic over that when I realized I had gotten accepted. Because to me, even now, I still pretty much consider myself a nobody in the community. I'm just some guy.
Nameless.
We'll have to have a talk about that afterwards.
But with that, I was so surprised that I actually got accepted, and to this day, I don't know what made them decide to accept me, but I'm glad that they did. So eventually, I get to the convention. I have a couple friends there at the time to kind of support me. I get up on stage, managed to squeeze out all of the speech that I had been mentally preparing for over a year at that point, and do so without umming and ahhing the whole way through, so that was pretty good. Didn't stutter either. Get off the stage and just like practically melt down the stairs that I almost fell down earlier. Because if you look at not this year's, but the year before's HarmonyCon, like if you go find one of the videos that are probably still out there of like the opening ceremony, if you watch the back of the stage, you can watch me almost fall off the stage.
Oh no!
But
and now we have Nameless. Oh, there we went.
well, there was enough of us on the stage that they kept pushing people to the side to get room for everybody. So I kept like, I've always had either my last name or my like character name is just far enough back on the alphabet that I always get pushed to the back, and they kept moving further and further back, and I kept running out of stage, and eventually I took one step too many. But after that, I had a bunch, like, so if you didn't know, community guests are required to have, for at least for HarmonyCon, at least 2 panels. So I had a couple of them planned, and like, of course, I did things that I knew that I could talk about, but I was also like not expecting people to show up, which was a pleasant surprise when I got a pretty like as far as HarmonyCon panels, I got a pretty full room for it. Although there was one point, I'm pretty sure it was Sax played something in the background outside because I'm pretty sure because Sax plays saxophone as far as I'm aware, and I'm pretty sure she also goes to HarmonyCon.
Yep.
But if everybody knows like the wah 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 wah, yeah, she did that outside as I said something so perfectly timed that the entire panel just died laughing.
Oh, that's amazing.
That was my first interaction with Sax, even though he has no clue about any of it.
Wow.
But yeah, and all of I actually have people now that I've been to 2 cons as both a panelist and a community guest, so the two of them to me are basically the same thing. I have people that will show up to my D&D panels consistently, and it's always a joy to see them. I've had people that show up to my writing related ones. All of the people that I've talked to, there is a perspective that you get as a community guest and a panelist that you don't get as just a guest. There's a view of the community that is just kind of one of those that like you don't see because you're normally on the other side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to like talk with people, one of the things that I'm planning on doing from now on is like there's going to be either an Alicorn discusses a creator roundup or both that happen exclusively at any convention I go to. Because of the fact that I like just having the camaraderie of the community guests or the creators and people all sitting around chatting with people, because these podcasts are a lot of fun for me. But there's one thing that it kind of misses out on compared to a panel at a convention, and that is the ability to speak with the audience. So the audience, like, yeah, they can ask questions, they can do stuff like that, but like it's not the same as having like you're sitting at a table at the front of the room, they're all sitting in the audience, and they can like raise their hands, ask questions, and like clarify if they need to, stuff like that. It's there's just nothing quite like being a community guest and a panelist. Of course, you feel special as a community guest at the beginning and the end. Most of the time, though, if you do get an inside look at everything that's going on as a community guest, it's like watching a group of chickens that all got decapitated at once and they're running around.
I can make this panel.
Yeah.
I do want to, like, if it's possible, try to, like, wedge my way into, like, without volunteering, because I don't want that responsibility, but, like, start putting more ideas in their ears, because I actually am the reason why, because I would not leave them alone about setting up a special chat for all of the community guests. So I'd like to think that I am the reason why that ended up actually happening. Nice. Because I'd ask them at least once a month, once the community guests started being announced, like, where's our chat? Where's our chat? Where's our chat? Because I knew if they did the same thing as last year, nobody'd be able to fucking coordinate anything. Because I remember Joey tried to coordinate with people through Twitter, and if he didn't get flat out ignored, which I was one of those people because I didn't even realize that Twitter wanted my attention because I spend most of the time just ignoring the notifications. I go there for business reasons. Sadly, that was a business reason. I just never expect people to interact with me on Twitter first. It's normally the other way around.
I feel that.
But yeah. It's definitely a different experience. You get to meet people that you'll watch a lot of the way that regular con goers act sometimes, and some of the community guests get viewed almost as like untouchable, if that makes sense. Like that you can't go talk to them; they're that person. Which
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this right now. If you see anybody walking around, feel free to go say hi. Only a handful of the community guests will bite. I may or may not be one of them. I kid. I don't bite.
If there's food in the hand might go with it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, food, if you bring
Fair.
food, that doesn't
Yeah.
count. But yeah,
That actually is another challenge when you're doing panels and other events, is finding time to eat.
Oh gosh, yes,
That's-
that was a big challenge for a vendor too.
yeah, that's one of those things that I try very specifically to make sure I have open sections in the scheduling of my panels. Though every time I go to a con, I leave with more panel ideas.
Right?
I mean, even when I was volunteering, finding times to eat was difficult. Like, my friend kept on ordering in because we didn't have time to leave the hotel.
Yep.
Also, fortunately, like, Volunteer Lounge has a bunch of snacks specifically because of people like us, and like a couple of guys were literally going around with like granola bars, being like this is your like health check, man. Have you been eating and drinking? And I was like, I did eat. I had like a bottle of water, and they were like, okay, but do you want them anyway? And I was like, what flavors do you have? And they had apple and some more. And I was like, oh, those are two of my favorites. And they just gave me both of them, for later. But like, it was like one of those things where like, it's nice when there are literally con staff members there to take care of people like the community guests and like the other volunteers and make sure we're eating and drinking. So it was nice to see that at the con I was at.
That is
I feel like they
something.
should capitalize on that.
There's. So my only experience is with Harmony Con. So they get they get singled out in this, but there is like I feel like cons should if. Okay, let me restart this train wreck of a sentence. When it comes to community guests, with this particular community's conventions, I feel like there should be a lot more focus on them, a lot more like attention paid to them. Like they should have like the meet and greet happens, but it's always somebody else. It's not a con scheduled thing.
Mm.
I feel like if there wasn't somebody scheduling it, and it could be that it is con scheduled, I just don't know that that's a con staff member. But like, I feel like there should be like spots set aside, like the VIP, where like, yes, you might see us wandering around, but like some people don't feel comfortable approaching in that kind of scenario. But if you have a meet and greet, it's specifically engineered in a way that you're supposed to meet people and greet people.
Mm-hmm.
So doing like one or two of those to like make sure you catch all of the community guests, it's a good way to like introduce the community to their guests.
Right.
Yeah.
I also would like to feel like it's a little more well directed, but that's a personal problem, I think. I don't know. You can ask Wastelander. Let's put him on the hot seat for that one.
I was I was making a joke at the exact same time you were talking about that.
But
A second.
it's
It
definitely
was something about what Rarity was saying earlier. I was like, I have an idea for a joke now because of that.
yeah, it's definitely one of those things that is one of the more interesting things to do is be part of the con rather than attending the con. I don't particularly care for the idea of volunteering because of how much it asks compared to, say, being a panelist or a community guest.
Yeah, I think it also depends on
both
everything
ways.
have like a different array of panels, and a lot of them are going to interest some people and not you. So it's one of those things where I was more comfortable volunteering partially because there were only really a few things at the first con I went to that really interested me. and they weren't likely to interfere. Like, I wanted to do the karaoke, and that's like late at night after my thing is basically done. I had what's it called? The second day, the only thing I wanted to do was the cosplay contest, and I was told by the person who recruited me to volunteer that I would be guaranteed the cosplay contest off the second day. And then the only thing I had left that I wanted to do was at some point meet the actual like guests of honor, which I ended up doing on Sunday because most of our activities were things that didn't require me. But it was like one of those things where like I only knew I wanted to do a few things. There's also like a couple of panels I wanted to do here and there, but one of them was at midnight, so that wasn't a scheduling issue. And one of them was early in the morning when I had my light day. So I was able to go to that one too. But there were a couple of things I missed out on, but also I could have potentially stretched it to do it, but I wasn't feeling well. So it was kind of like while I was taking my breaks was one of the things I wanted to do and I was just too tired for it. But that would have been the case even if I had been doing other panels before and after the things.
See,
so it really depends on how many things in a con you want to do. If you have a light schedule, then you can do more help. Okay.
See, the thing that I do, rather if I get bored, I look at who's doing panels, and 9 times out of 10, I know them, so I will randomly just be sitting on the front of panels that I have no business in. And I was not scheduled for, but I'm over here making comments and, occasionally cracking jokes. And I have no reason to be in this panel. I was never scheduled for this panel, but I've invaded, and it is my panel now.
That's fun.
I do that quite often. If you are on like at HarmonyCon and you see JoEo's panels, there's a 50-50 chance that I will also be on JoEo's panel, whether I'm supposed to be there or not. But yeah, it's one of those it's a lot of fun. So we're about an hour and a half in, and to respect everybody's time, we're gonna do one con story each. And I know. I know I'm going to need to give Wastelander some time to think, so we're going to put Peruser on the hot seat.
Oh gosh, con story.
It can be weird, funny, whatever.
I have a story about how Peruser was completely and helplessly
stuck in the third person?
No. well.
Sorry, inside joke.
A great and powerful Peruser.
From a con story to a podcast for you, real quick.
I have a story where Peruser was a complete and total idiot for not noticing what was happening to him as it was happening.
Uh-oh.
So, okay. This was TrotCon 2017 or 2018. I don't remember which. And my booth was positioned right next to another plushie maker's, which I thought was kind of weird, but, it was whatever it was. And that artist, it doesn't matter who they were, but they had a helper with them at the booth. And it was a girl. And she was very, very helpful. Well, I sat down at my booth, and she was immediately kind of friendly. And started making small talk, started chatting, asking me about my plushies. I talked to her about things or whatnot. And, we just been being chatty, being good neighbors. As the day went on, she started chatting with me a little more about, like what are my likes, what are my interests, and she started taking an interest in, more than just my work. She started scooting her chair closer to mine. She started getting kind of giggly, when she would talk to me. And I was like, gosh, this girl's really nice.
The brain cell didn't
That's
take it any
the
further.
only reason they were
Okay,
talking.
look, sometimes that is the only reason you're talking to me. It can be a confusing experience.
Well, hold that thought. So, as the weekend wore on, she started to do more things for me. So she would like offer to go get me food during lunchtime. She would offer to watch my booth for me if I needed, a bathroom break or something, or asked if I wanted to hang out later in the con. I was like, nah, I'm busy. I've got stuff going on. I got things I got to do, And this went on for the entire convention. And we get to the last day, and I'm cleaning up my booth, and I'm taking my stuff out to my car to put it away. And I go out to my car, I'm putting stuff away, and she finds me at my car. And she comes up to me and she says, I had a really nice time this weekend. I really enjoyed hanging out with you. And she said it that way. And she gave me a little slip of paper. And she looked at me and she said, "Keep in touch." And I looked down and it was her Facebook info. And she did that cute girly thing where she walked backwards with her hands behind her back while still looking at me before she turned around on her heel and then proceeded to walk away. And I stood there at my car looking down at the piece of paper she handed me, and then I looked back at her as she was walking away, and I literally said out loud to nobody in particular, I said, "What a nice girl."
I've been there. I've done that. I know the feeling.
And I got in my car and I drove away.
Oh God. Oh.
And there's an epilogue to this too.
Oh, there's more.
So a few days later, I was at a buddy's house and just hanging out, just playing video games, catching up. And I told him about my convention weekend, and I told him this entire story that I just said here. and he was totally silent the whole time I was telling it. And I think I ended the story by saying, that was weird, right? And there was this really long silence. And finally he just turns to me and he said, "She was hitting on you, right?" And I was like, "What? Is that what that was?"
God, how many times I've gotten that from people? It was like, she was hitting on you. What?
Yep.
So, Peruser is not the brightest bulb in the box.
This we knew. We love you all the same.
Aw, love you too, Big Cat. So yeah, that's my embarrassing con story.
Wow.
I feel like that is a story that many a brony can relate to.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's just my daily life sometimes.
No offense, Wastelander, but I see it.
I'm just a person who's like, oh, I love all these things about romance and everything, and then it comes to me, I'm just like, I can't tell if they're actually doing it or not. It feels like it. Are they? No, there's no way.
I actually feel sorry for the lady because she was probably trying so hard to be friendly to this guy she was sitting next to, and he was just being like, "Oh no, I don't want to hang out with you. I got stuff to do." Totally not reciprocating in any way.
Being dense as a brick.
Yeah, that's my specialty. All right, I'm gonna take a drink now. It's just Gatorade, don't worry. All right, who's next?
Nashi, we're gonna pick on you next.
Okay. So my story is actually a really nice one because it's actually one of the events of my broniedom that means the most to me. Um, so, for those of you who don't know, I'm trans. I had my first experience of gender euphoria, which is the opposite of dysphoria, at a PonyCon. It was actually the very first BabsCon. So, like, at the time, I had, like, just started my transition. I wasn't, like, looking any different or anything, really. And, I was nervous to go out in public wearing female clothes at the time, so I was just like in my gender neutral attire, and I went to the vendor hall, and I wandered up to a table that had like these keychains that I was interested in, and I'm looking through them. I take like a pair off of like their little rack that they had to take a closer look at them, uh and like I was really shy at the time, so I didn't know how to like appeal to the artist who was like currently like under the table rummaging through some boxes because like he was still setting up. So his helper like pats him on the back and just goes, "Hey, you want to help her out?" And it was the first time any stranger ever properly gendered me without me having to say anything. And it just gave me the biggest smile ever.
That's so sweet.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna make Lullaby go next.
Okay. I have not gone to many, so I don't have many stories, and most of them are tales of victory. I think. Okay, so a couple come to mind. Would you prefer the one where everybody thought that I was upset and kept on trying to fix it? Or do you want the one where I used my friend as a prop?
Let's go with the second one.
Okay, so my first con, one of the panels we went to on Sunday was called Mares. And the premise of it was that you argue that your waifu, your pony waifu, your favorite pony is the best pony. And it's basically a debate thing. So if the like people determine that you got to pass the mic on because you've lost your debate there, or you run out of things to say to defend them, then it gets passed on. So it starts off pretty easily, pretty simple, and it goes on for like a little bit. They knock out, I think. Oh gosh, there were a few characters. I think they got Derpy out of the way. I think they got like Rarity down quick. I think Twilight also got knocked out pretty early. Like, it was very much you can't repeat a pony. And I was waiting for my moment. I was like, I need to wait for these people to get through because once I'm on there, I will be there for a while because I'm very good at debating. So I waited for my moment, and then it came. I was like, okay, come up here with me. And remember, the first con, I was with Applejack and Twilight, and I was dressed as Rarity. And I remember also from before that when I am in costume, I also cannot help being in character. So I show up, I grab the mic, I do like that big, when Will Smith was presenting his wife, like the big arms. I was like, okay, that's all well and good, but have you considered Applejack? And my friend was dressed as Applejack, so I was like, she's big, she's strong, she can do this, she can do that. And she can rip an apple in half with her bare hands. And I had my friend rip apples in half in front of people. Like, absolutely just, like, crush them. And then, like, pass them out to people. And this had the secondary thing of they would like me and also Applejack better if they were fed.
Oh yeah.
See,
yeah,
getting all the like tricks of the trade. So I got my Applejack passing out apples, and nobody can defeat me. They're like, oh, but Applejack's not very good at math, and it's like her entire family works together. There is not necessarily the requirement that she be the primary person in charge of math. Like, when you run a business, usually it helps, but a lot of people have accountants for a reason. Like, so it was very much a case of like, also, do you really determine a character's like worth by their ability to do math? Is this like the educational system? Like, is this really what's going to make you like a character? Not is their mathematical ability, honey. So it was stuff like that. There was like, it was very much like you can't knock me off of because of this, because that is an arbitrary thing that does not like do anything to like promote her worth. Like it's very much like, this is a thing that you were trying to, yeah, it was very much like I could knock down an argument like that so quick. It was like, excuse me, are you saying a character isn't worthwhile if they can't do math? Because that is ableist. That's not the argument I made. But the point is, I ended up being undefeated for like a half an hour. Like, I defeated Celestia. Like,
Wow.
and the only reason that in the end Applejack was not declared the pure victor was because, well, logically, I laid out why Applejack is perfect. A lot of people just emotionally vibe with Luna more, so they did it like an audience like applause thing, and Luna won for that one reason, that just more people were loud about her. But I know in my heart Applejack was the true winner because I love her.
Fair.
So yeah, I was like, Applejack, you really won this thing. That's all that really matters. Is like the whole point though that was so great about it is I had an Applejack with me. I had a strong girl who could rip apples in half and like was born in Texas and had the accent and could like pick me up and carry me over her shoulder at will. Like, I literally, when I went up to the stage, I didn't walk to the stage. I got carried to the stage and said, "Have you considered Applejack?" like, come on, with that kind of presentation. They literally asked me after the panel to please host a panel next time. Like, if they see my name, I was going to be accepted for my sheer charisma. And I was like,
makes sense.
It's because Applejack is wonderful. She gave me great material. But also, I'm really, really good at arguing. And I was in character, so I was even better at arguing.
Nice.
So yeah, my victories. Okay, next story.
Scarlett, your turn.
Oh man. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna go with a little bit more of a different take in terms of story direction. I'm gonna go with the logistics of dealing with going to a convention or going back from a convention or staying at a convention, because I've had some exciting, adventurous, and some crazy experiences with that. Like the first thing that comes to mind is last year's HarmonyCon. Oh goodness. So first, I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing a panel with Blue Brony, and we're going to be making a song from scratch right there, and I need to get my my keyboard to the panel, and this is one of those full-size 88 key keyboards, so you kind of have to you need a full-size case for it. I didn't realize it was going to be expensive, so that was an investment for that. But last year, no wait, it was this year. This year's, I'm getting them confused. Once you go to enough conventions, they start to all run together. But like this year's convention, I forgot that there would be an oversized charge fee for the flight back. So I was a little bit scrambling with finances for getting that keyboard back last year, or this year. But then last year, let me see. So, sorry, I'm all over the place. Let's see. Right, okay, so last year, turns out the friend that the friend that I was supposed to be staying with, who's trying to get a hotel for us, oh man, I feel so bad for him. He had a really rough time getting to the convention. First of all, he took Spirit Airlines, so that was a mistake.
Oh god.
Second, so they basically said that the plane was under maintenance because something wasn't working, and so he had to get a different flight. That the day he was supposed to leave for the con, and he was also, on top of this, he was also a VIP handler. So, oh my goodness, God bless him. He needed the help. But anyway, and as if that wasn't enough, during the layover between when he was supposed to be switching flights and trying to get that mess sorted out, the hotel called him saying that they wouldn't make accommodations for one of our guest that we were having that was in a wheelchair because they just couldn't make a wheelchair accommodations for some reason. And it was just like, wait, what? Oh my goodness. Are you serious? They couldn't watch the wheelchair while waiting for the person to get there. It was just like, okay, seriously? So we had to... He had to last minute get us a room at the hotel of the convention itself, which is asking a lot because usually those rooms sell out. And so then, but he was able to find one, but unfortunately it was only for the first 2 nights. So the very last night, I was having fun, hanging out with everyone as a community, hanging out with the community guests, my friends, and just, having a great time and talking and meeting new people. And then out of nowhere, I realized, wait a minute, it's like 2 or 3 a.m. I need to get some sleep and I need to get ready for the flight home tomorrow. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, we don't have a room anymore. Who am I going to stay with? And so I started randomly texting my friends, or just messaging my friends on Discord, wait a minute, okay, do you guys have space in a room? Do you guys have space in a room? Of course, most of them were asleep already, so most of them didn't reply.
Oh no!
But Blue managed to reply. He said that you guys you could stay with us, but by the time I got to the room, because I was trying to wrap up conversations with people and stuff, they were all asleep, and so I was sort of standing there awkwardly, okay, do I knock really hard to wake them up? Nah, that seems impolite. It's fine. I got my stuff. I got everything with me. I'll just sleep in the lobby. So that's what I did. I had to stay in the hotel lobby for the entire night, and then leave after that. But you make do with what you got. They had bathrooms. And they had most of what I needed. It was just so needless to say, conventions are an adventure not just because of the con itself, but logistics.
Yeah.
Okay. Wastelander, your turn. Did I give you enough time?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
To
boy.
give some context to the way they give me so much time, there are over 100 stories I can go into. Going to my first convention experiences to the convention horror stories to just how panels go. But I'm going to do the same thing Rarity did, and I'm going to leave this one to a vote or what you think would be better. Because I think it'd be better just to offer stories of Brony related. So there are 2 that are like to see if y'all want to hear about. One is how I got I want to say initiated. It's just how I got initiated into the fandom itself, or how I managed to survive my first Brony or my not first Brony, my second Brony convention, or how I survived it without having to spend any money.
Ooh, second one. For the
Whoa.
thrifty ones out there.
Yeah, I'd like to learn some
Yeah.
tips from that second one.
We can't all have sugar friends.
Yeah.
No. This is different. So, but yeah, I'll go for that one. Okay. So this is Nightmare Nights, the very first Nightmare Nights up in Dallas, Texas, and we're going over there. Me and a friend of mine. We had everything planned out. We got the room all settled in. We got the settled up. We got everything, the car, the badge. We go over there to purchase for everything, and turns out something happened with my card, and I could not pay for the room.
Oh,
My
no.
friend didn't have much money to pay for the room either, and they wouldn't accept any other card for the room. So we had to scramble for a room, and unfortunately we just couldn't figure one out. So he went one direction, I went another one. Instead, I didn't actually have a room for the convention. What I did was, for the first 2 nights, or the first night, I slept in my truck in the parking lot, and the second one was I volunteered last minute to help with security, and got to sleep in a chair after my shift in the con ops room.
Huh.
That was just for the rooming arrangements, and that was just from my part. I couldn't afford to pay for the badge, so they gave me a badge for that. So I ended up working to get a free badge, and I didn't sleep in a hotel room, so I didn't spend money on for a hotel. However, my other friend, who was a bit more unfortunate, had the money to get the badge, but he didn't talk to me about getting rooms and the hidden rules you should follow when getting rooms with strangers, people you don't know. He ended up getting overcharged to where each person in that room was paying about $60 per night. He ended up getting, yeah, they charged him over 130 per night.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know about this until like he got over there and told me about it. I'm like, wait a minute, you paid how much for the room? And he's like, this much. I'm like, how many people were in the room? And he says, oh, there were about there were about 5 other people in the room. I was like, what room was it? And what do you mean? What room number? And I'm like, no, what type of room was it? Was it a suite? Like, no, it was just one of the regular rooms. I'm like, dude, if I had to do my math, and I told him the exact price people had to pay for it, he's like, wait, I had paid this much and I could have paid that much? I'm like, yeah. How much did you pay for your room? I just like look around like, funny story about that one. He's like, what?
Oh,
Let me guess, you paid like what, 20, $30 for your room? I'm like, I didn't pay anything for a room at all. He's like, you got a free room? Like I said, no, you misheard me. I didn't pay anything for a room. Like, what do you mean? I didn't have a room. Where were you? In my truck. For both nights? No, just for one. Oh, do you have room for the second night then? Like, no, because you misheard me the first time. I slept in the conop's room in a chair. He's like, they had a fold-out chair? I'm like, no, this was a rolling chair. How?
oh
I'm
no!
like,
Oh,
dude, I'm in the military. I can sleep on anything. And he's like, what the hell? Show me. I'm like, fine. I go, I get a rolling chair, and I just like show him this is the chair I slept in. And he's looking at it. He's like walking around like, how did you, your neck, what? I don't get it. I'm like, don't worry about it. Just
You sleep where
we
you
both
can.
came out of this thing and learned from our experiences. But yeah,
what
I'd
about
like
food? Was
to-
that still free too?
Actually, kind of, yeah. Most of it was. So
What?
if for volunteers, I kind of lived off of the pizza that they had. Because most time if you volunteer, they provide food sometimes, like once a day or twice a day, they'll provide some food for volunteers. And I kind of just survived off of that.
Wow. Impressive.
Wasn't my most proudest. Yeah, it wasn't my proudest moment, but it was me using my resourcefulness to survive a convention with a card that doesn't work and just enough money or just enough gas to get back home.
Makes sense.
See,
See, logistic stories. They're interesting.
See, the funny thing
I
is,
just haven't been to enough to have any yet.
see, the funny thing is,
prepare for
I've
it.
also
It'll happen
been
at some
to a convention without having to pay for food. It's one of the perks of being native to Texas. I know all the good food places, so all I do is I charge the person that's wanting to go somewhere to eat. I tell them, yeah, but you're buying lunch for me.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm paying for the gas up here. You're paying for the food.
So my story is kind of a combination of logistics and just like weird circumstances. It's one of the because I've got a bunch of either really short stories or stories that involve other people that I don't know if they want me to tell. So this one I'm not going to name any names, mainly because about half the people involved I don't know their names. But so my second HarmonyCon, it was the first one I was a community guest at. I decided that I'd have some friends out there with me. One of them was he showed up to like support and everything, but like wasn't a brony. And so there's technically there's going to be him, 2 other people, and another community guest involved in this story. So this is the second night of the convention, because HarmonyCon lasts 3 nights, or 3 days. 3 days, 2 nights. And so we're at the concert, and I'm just enjoying myself. It was just after Black and Blue and Biscuit had performed with who else was up there? Prince whatever, and I think not Blue Brony, Melody Brony. I think Melody Brony had been up as well. So like all of those were done, and a girl walked up to me and asked if how long I'd been a brony. I told her, and she immediately left because she was not a brony. Now, how I know that is because she then found my buddy, who was also not a brony, and they started enjoying their time together. And to this day, I'm still pretty sure she was looking for somebody to buy her drinks, but she didn't want to hang out with a brony.
Wow.
So, it seems pretty innocent. They're hanging out together, having fun. They would have gotten a room together, but that there was no room to access. So
Right.
they were just like sitting. Now the girl that she was with, holy crap, that very much closeted lesbian in love kind of vibes with the way she reacted to the 2 of them sitting together.
Oopsie.
Holy crap, that was just like a shit show to watch. For reference, this girl I had walked past because I was talking to Joey. I walked past her, said hello, and she said no. Not any kind of other reply. She looked at me, said no, and kept walking. I'm just like, I said hi.
What?
You weren't even part of the conversation over here. Because I have a tendency, if you walk past me, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say hello out of sheer force of habit.
Right.
Yeah.
I used to work for a store called Tom Thumb, and the expectation is no matter how many times you saw the customer, you could walk past them 3 times, literally going from one end of an aisle to another. You're supposed to say hello every time, and I did that. So it's a hard habit to break, but I didn't think much else of it until I saw my buddy and both of those girls, just like the 2 girls were getting into it and yelling at each other. And eventually it turns out they're rooming with this community guest, and like the 3 of them like eventually just go off to their room, and I take my buddy and we go home. Because like I live at the time I was living in Garland. I still live pretty close to the con, but that was closer. So we go home, and like we're getting settled down, and like I'm getting ready to lay down in bed, and I hear from the other room of my apartment, all I hear is nameless. And I'm like, what? Can we go get her? I'm like, what the hell? Turns out she had decided to pick a fight with the community guest, who actually was the one paying for the room, and got kicked out of the room. So,
brother.
4 in the morning, I go. I have to go all the way back to the hotel. We pick her up, go all the way back to my place, and she spends the night sleeping on the couch with my buddy. He respected my space too much for anything funny to happen, but
Right.
it was just one of those. We dropped her off at the airport afterwards and went back to the convention. Me on 2 hours of sleep, having to do another panel and then get up on stage, and only to get chewed out by the other girl involved in this story because we were nice enough to come pick her up instead of leaving her on the side of the street because I'm too nice for that.
Good grief.
I'm just like, holy crap. This isn't my drama, but what the hell just happened?
Right?
Yeah.
And of course, the other community gets like, yeah, this is like a once a con type of thing. Like there's always something that catches fire.
At that point, I would question more who that community guest chooses to stay with, or
he didn't get much of a choice. He was a very last-minute add to the roster. So it was one of those what he could find kind of room.
Oof. That's just unfortunate.
He did say that after that he would not be just picking random rooms with roommates that he didn't know.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my interesting con stories. All the rest of them are either too short or too full of personal things for other people.
Right.
So, but
I was in a room with a stranger, and it was nice. I'm glad it wasn't an experience like that.
Yeah.
yeah. But other than that, I think that now is a good time to call it for the night. I didn't see any questions. I'll double check real quick. I'm pretty sure Ice didn't pick us anything out of the... yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions or anything. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. For those of you that are still watching, if you enjoyed that and would like to see more of it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, follow on Twitch, all that good stuff. If you want to show further support for the channel, don't forget to check out all the links in the description. Got my Patreon. The Discord is free to join. Some of the guests on the podcast stick around afterwards as well. If you want to be able to like hang out on the stage and listen to us chat and things like that, or get priority on questions, check out my $5 tier on Patreon. You'll be able to hang out on the actual Discord stage that we record this on. Other than that, the Discord is a free to enter kind of thing. And if you want to directly support me, there's the of course there's always the YouTube's membership. It's Twitch subscription, YouTube membership. Either one of those supports me enormously, along with any super chats, bits, all that fun stuff. All of it's appreciated. All of it goes to helping me continue being able to do what I do. Big thank you to the Priest tier patrons, Cameo, Shadowness, Ice, Crystal, and Scarmex. I appreciate all of the help that you guys give me. Other than that, everybody have a great evening, and don't forget to drink water.
Hydrate or dihydrate.